Hello, I'm supposed to be shooting a video about women in agriculture, whether that be women in Europe, where I currently am, or women back at home in Kenya, women generally in Africa, or around the globe. That's what I wanted to focus on this week, and have a few other women be on this and interview them and ask them the experience, and also myself talk about my experience, because I'm also in agriculture as a farmer and in the food policy and politics system. But I decided to talk about something else. So today, the ruling on Breonna Taylor came out, and I've been following the case for the last 6 months, and finally something came out. And by the time this video goes up, you probably know, unless you live in a hole, or unless you don't really care. I don't even know why you wouldn't care, but you probably know what happened. You probably know the ruling, that she got no justice. She was shot in her sleep for doing nothing, and she got no justice. Instead, the crime was that the policeman shot aimlessly and could have endangered the neighbors around while they were doing this particular drug bust at her house. So she's dead, she's gone. Her name has been used as a hashtag, as some sort of hope, of semblance of getting hope. The case has been used as a sort of way of, okay, we're going to get hope. The settlement that has been given to the family is the largest ever in the county or in the state, but there has been no justice for her. It's like her death was in vain. She just didn't get justice. Nothing. It was more important that the policeman aim properly than it is for a policeman to just shoot at people. It's more important for you as a policeman to aim than for you to shoot. That's how I've understood it. That was today. This weekend, rather the weekend of the 19th and 20th in Kenya, there was a video that was trending about a woman who gave birth on the streets. A woman giving birth on the streets. Yes, it sounds absurd, but it's true and it happened. And not in the car, on the street, on the road, like she was lying on the ground. I won't even link it here. If you can still find it, go look for it, because it was very disturbing. Reason: the health workers on strike because they haven't been paid. The nurses on strike because they hadn't been paid. So the watchman at the gate turned her away and told her, you know what, you can't come in here. There's no one who's going to attend to you in your delivery state. You're just going to have to find another hospital. So she left to find another hospital. Apparently in the hospital she went to, she couldn't find a place to park the car. So she went back to the same hospital where she was turned away and told, no, we are not accepting any patients. Even if you are just about to deliver, you gotta go. She couldn't go. By that time the baby was here. The baby is coming. The baby is now. She gave birth on the streets. Because the healthcare workers have not been paid by the government, so they weren't attending to any patients. So guess what? She gave birth in the streets. The most disrespected person in this globe is the black woman. It doesn't matter which part of the country you are in. You can be Kenyan, you can be Ugandan, Zimbabwean, South African, Eritrean, German, American, Jamaican, and you're black and you're a woman. Trust you me, the law is not on your side. Regardless of how you look into it, even if it is, you're the last person to be attended to. Guys, a woman gave birth on the streets back in my home country. On the street, not in the car, on the street, on the road. In the middle of everyone. That is a very intimate affair. You're bringing life into this world, a child, something you have anticipated. You've gone through your pregnancy, maybe the pregnancy was fine and it was well. You're looking for a hospital to give birth to in the middle of a nurse strike, and because you can't find anything on the street, in front of every single person prying, looking, yelling, screaming. Some are trying to get you help, others are just spectators looking by. This is a very private affair. There's a reason as to why in Kenya, in public hospitals, they don't even let your husband or your boyfriend or whoever impregnated you to get into that hospital and maternity ward with you. It's just you, your baby, the nurses, and the doctor. That's it. Because it's private, because it's unhygienic, because it has to be safe, because they just don't want any health issues occurring. So you can imagine after all that, you give birth on the street. One of the most intimate and private affairs you have is out there for the whole world to see. She survived. Thank God. She's fine. The baby is also fine. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, there's no complications, but wow. Breonna Taylor dies, and 6 months later, there's no justice. The only justice is you should have aimed the gun properly. I mean, why are you shooting at walls? Endangering other neighbors. The lady was shot 6 times, but no. It's like she didn't even, like the ruling was like she didn't even exist. Yeah, she died unfortunately, but next time you make sure you shoot properly. That's how it's interpreted. That's how it looks, because they tried to spin this around in whichever case, and because apparently nothing the cops did was illegal. Entering someone's house at 12:30 a.m. in the name of busting out drugs is not illegal. Entering a house without a search warrant is not illegal. Not knocking at 12:30 a.m. Obviously at 12:30, if someone was to knock at my house, I'd be looking for the closest thing to hit someone with, because what are you doing in my house at 12:30? Like, seriously, I'm sleeping. Apparently you can do that and it's fine. You can shoot in someone 8, 7, 6 times and it's fine. But if you shoot aimlessly, that's the crime. The most disrespected person on this planet is a black woman. Now let me talk about women in agriculture, because I was going to talk about this anyway, but I just had to bring that out. If you're a young woman like me, or younger than me, or about my age, or you just look at me and you're like, she's a young woman, and you also want to venture into this thing, and you're black, and most importantly, you're African, it's hard. Shit is hard. Especially if you're in the field of agriculture. Why? Because agriculture requires land. And guess who has the least amount of land in this globe? Guess which gender? Guess who has the least amount of rights when it comes to land rights? Guess in Kenya, how many women get conned? Just try and think about it at the top of your head. I'll come back for you the statistics later, but I just want you to think about it, then we'll talk about it in a proper, not in a proper video, but in a video where now I will come with the facts, because I'll come with them. How much more difficult it used to be for you to acquire land if you're a black woman, if you're an African woman, especially if you're a Kenyan and you're a woman. I have so many stories at the tip of my fingers which I will talk about. Some of people, relatives, my mother herself, closest to my heart, how difficult it was for her to get services just because. Because what? It's not easy. When I released my video on 5 tips that you need to have when you're starting a farm, a lot of the people who reached out were ladies, and I was so excited. And I thought, yes, we're not going to change this world. No one is changing the world. We're just going to change our community one person at a time. We're going to change our families one person at a time. We're going to change our lives one step at a time. That's the point, not to change the world. You can't change the world with one person, but you do what you can. So after posting that video, I thought, wow, okay, if people are interested in farming and agriculture, then I should keep them coming. But I also want to tell you the truth. It's not easy. It's more difficult for you than it ever will be for a man, especially if you're Kenyan. And if you're a black woman in an African country, if you're a black woman in another country, it is always going to be more difficult for you. That's the truth. The most hit gender by climate change is the women. I did a course called Gender, Agriculture, and food security. No, food, gender, and agriculture. I think that was the name of the course. And the detail we went into, especially when you're talking about women. And yes, we're living in a woke environment where gender is not only men and women, it's other. And because I don't know so much about that, I will not speak about it. I'm going to speak about women because that's what I know. And we realize that women are the ones who are going to be the hardest hit. Because despite the fact that they do not own the land, especially in African countries, despite that, they're the ones who are working the land. They're the ones who depend on the land, grow the food on it, to sell it. But they don't have any rights to it. So if climate change was to really hit, because right now it's hitting, but if it comes with force like sea levels rise all of a sudden, or we have another wave of floods or another wave of locusts, the people who suffer the most are the women because they're the ones who depend. I know a lady who literally took her kids to school through selling vegetables. She would grow her veggies, her cabbages, sukuma wiki, kales, which is kales in English, spinach and all that stuff. And she took her kids through school because of that. Can you imagine if she was living in a time like now? What would she have done? And the bank will not give you loans if you're in agriculture. No. I mean, you have to be exporting. You have to show, or in a greenhouse. At least in a greenhouse exporting, that's fine. But if you're just doing agriculture, I want a loan, I don't know, to buy XYZ number of pangas, or I don't know how many number of fertilizer and all those things. They'll be like, no, you're in a very risky environment. Why climate change when you're a woman? They may not tell you when you're a woman, but it will just be like, oh, maybe she doesn't really know what she's doing. It's tough. That's the truth. When I was still in Kenya, I'm going to go back eventually, yes, because I have so many things and ideas I need to do. Me and my mom it's my mother's farm, but I help her run it. And I remember there was a time she wasn't around. And I was the one running the whole thing for like 2 weeks. It's just me. And I knew I could do it. I knew my shit. I knew what I was doing. I knew I could run that farm. But the disrespect I got from employees, people who are under me, yes, older, but they're under me, just because I'm young, just because I'm a woman. She doesn't know what she's doing. Or she's just come from university, doesn't know how to hold a djembe. Anatuambia nini? What's she telling us? Just because of who you are, how you look. You don't know how to do anything. Excuse you. But let me tell you something. If you're planning on farming and you're a woman and you're young, most likely you will hire men. Most likely. Not because the women don't want to do it. No, it's because you actually don't need the manpower. And like it or not, men do have more muscles. Yes, the women can do it. And I would be rather off hiring women. And don't get me wrong, it's not like you're doing anything wrong, but it's easier and safer for me. I feel safer. But because sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere, like when you first started our farm was literally in the middle of nowhere, it was safer to hire men. But the level of disrespect they would give me, or even sometimes my mother, who is much older than them. Some of my relatives who are women, aunties, I mean, people who I look up to and I'm like, wow, my mother herself, they've done things in their life and I'm like, yeah. And I look up to them, but still someone asked them, you did this and you're a woman, alone without a husband. How did you manage to buy the land on your own? How did you manage to do this agriculture alone? How are you managing to get the connections alone? It's like being a woman is an impairment. The most disrespected person in this globe is a black woman. You put those two things together and it's like you were just born into disaster. If you're a woman planning to enter agriculture, if you're an African woman planning to enter and venture into farming, brace yourself for that. Banks won't give you loans because they'll say you're in a high-risk business. And it's true. Climate change is real. Those who say it's fake, shame on them. It's real. It's happening. It's in your face here. Right now it's cold and it's September in Kenya. Why is it cold? That's climate change. Why is wildfires are going all over the place in California? In Australia, around March, it was burning. It's flooding everywhere, locusts all over the place. It's like 2020. You're like, oh, 2020. No, yeah, 2020 is a bad year, but climate change is real. And then add on to that the fact that you're a woman trying to get land on your own. It's a problem. That's the truth. You might have all these bright ideas, but simply because you're female and you're black, oh my God, you have to prove yourself. You have to work harder. Who helped you get there? Whose daughter are you? Who's your dad? Who's your husband? Who's your mother? Who's who? What? You can't do it on your own, apparently. You're going to be disrespected left, right, and center. That's just the truth. It's come to a point after the ruling today, after the excuse I saw of why the policemen were not charged with murder, because clearly that was murder. In my head, my immediate conclusion was, we're alone. In this world, we are on our own. So, it looks like we need to form a circle around ourselves and hold each other close and tight and keep each other accountable and give each other all the support we need. All the support we need. You see a woman starting a business, cheer her on. If she's not good at it, don't blast her in public. Pull her aside and be like, okay, here. And if it's your place to say, if it's not your place to say, please, here, correct this. If you know someone who can assist her in any way, especially if it's capacity, maybe she knows she has the idea, she's really good at what she wants to do, but she just needs some sort of mentorship. Be that mentor if you can. If you can't, forward her to someone and insist that this person help her. Because it looks like all justice systems, all social systems, all health systems are against you, yet they are supposed to be for you. You of all people need them the most, but they are just all over the place, trampling. And Brasila did not get justice. Let me tell you, if you're watching this and you're wondering, oh, why is she complaining about someone in another country? You think it doesn't affect you. It does. Just because it happened in the US doesn't mean it can't happen to you. That is the country where they say it's the land of the free and the home of the brave. Apparently, that's what the national anthem, glorifies. And it's the first country in the world to really advocate for women's rights and human rights and all this animal, like the rights of, as you can see in the news, everyone is like, oh, I'm not wearing a mask, I have rights. Rights is a big deal there. And even with rights and all that, with the law and policies, still the black woman is put under there and stepped on and told, you stay there. So what makes you think you're better off in somewhere else? Law is in such a way that when something happens, when something unprecedented like 2020 happens, you have the COVID-19, and then you have the Black Lives Matter movements, and then you have the Belarus bomb and all these things happening. Law usually adapts and modifies. It doesn't usually stay the same. You tweak it as time changes, because before, women are not allowed to have a bank account, to own land, to own anything, even to have inheritance in African countries. There's no way. Now women can do it. Why? Because times changed, right? And we don't only follow law for, all laws are usually kind of the same. They intertwined. Of course, every country has their own ways of systems of doing things. It's law to do this, it's illegal to do that here, it's legal here, and blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to rights, usually they tend to be parallel and level among countries all over the globe. And if they see something happening in this country, they're able to pick it up and be like, oh, okay, so if these people change their law and it works this way and it favors these people and it favors the community, then we can also try and see what we can change. Because you don't want to be left behind. We live in a global village. You do something everyone in the world knows. And if you don't make something to change it, your whole country suffers and you suffer. So just because Breonna Taylor died in US doesn't mean it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with you. And more so if you're a black woman. Just because someone gave birth in the streets in Kenya, a lady, a woman, had her whole privacy and her whole intimacy stripped from her in another country or in a place where you cannot relate to. Just because it happened to her and it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't have anything to you. It does. It's a social injustice. It needs to be spoken about because law will change and adapt. So you also have to do the same. You don't speak up against something that happens in another part of the world, it will come in the back of the neck to bite you. A black woman wins, we all win. A black woman fails, we all fail. You know someone who's starting a farm, a business, and she's a lady, support her. She needs it. God damn, she needs it. You know someone who's starting a business, it's a black woman, whichever part of the world, support her. She needs it. If you don't buy the things, who's going to buy it? Defend your black women at all costs. Defend them. Clearly, no one's up for them. The whole social system has failed us. If she's done something wrong, pull her aside and correct her. That doesn't mean that you're going to cover all sins and faults of every single one because you're like, oh, women at all costs. No, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say there's so many legit people who get thrown under the bus because the social system doesn't work. And the examples I've used are just two. They're the most extreme ones because they're the ones we saw on video. You can imagine in the rural area what that woman is going through. The other day, in fact, I was talking to a friend of mine, a health worker doctor, and he said there are some women who don't show up until the due date. Their delivery is supposed to be on a certain date, but they won't come on that date because the husband did not give her money for bus fare to go to the hospital. You know, when I had that, as someone who has my own independence, as someone who's able to earn my own cash, I had that and I felt like someone had stabbed me in the heart with a knife that was hot and continued to do like this. She didn't have the money to go to the hospital. She couldn't afford a taxi. She couldn't afford a motorbike. She couldn't afford a bus. Nothing. There was no way of her getting to, and she's not going to walk. I mean, she is in labor. There was no way of her to get there because her husband did not live in him. And you want to tell me the Breonna Taylor case means it's none of your business? No. Whichever part of the world you are in, and you're planning to go into agriculture, be prepared. The policies might be against you. The work environment might be against you. It might be toxic. You might be hiring people because of the nature of the crop you want to do, because of the nature of the livestock you want to keep. It might be labor intensive and you would need the manpower. But hold your ground. I'm cheering for you. I will keep giving you advice. I will look for the information. Now, this has woken me up to be more. If it means I wasn't sleeping before, now I'm not sleeping at all. I was sleeping like 3 hours because I'm looking for content and doing my thesis and doing this at the same time. Now I'm not sleeping at all until I finish myself trying to help people come up because it looks like we're on our own. So at all costs, I'm going to defend you guys. I'm going to root for you. Whatever it is that you're growing, share it. Share the tips that you learn. Let me also share the information that I learn. Let me learn as many languages as I can so that I can, interact with as many people and pick up tips from here and there and make sure I share them with every single African woman who's trying to enter a farm because God knows it's hard. God knows you're disrespected. God knows that whatever it is that you try to do, everyone just wants to put you down. But I got you. We do this together. If you're a man and you're watching this, you better have us too. We're trying. And you can clearly see we weren't lying when we were saying you guys don't understand. I hope you read the ruling on Breonna Taylor case and now you get it. I hope you get it. I hope you watched the video, or if you're too light-headed to watch it, you read the story around it and you get it. I hope you listen to other women when they tell you their stories because, wow, God knows they're many. And even if you don't understand that, you will support because Lord knows we need it. Our social justice and health systems are completely against us. So if you can get all the help we'll get, we'll take it. Because we need to survive. That's all I have to say. I'll come up with another video on women in agriculture, specifically on tips and tools. I try to make it as informative as possible. Bring some women on who I know are really flourishing and, badass in this game. And we keep soaring. Until then, kwaheri.